future trends, deep insights, industry leaders. This is the iGaming Next podcast with your host, Karolina Pelc.
Hi, everyone. My name is Karolina Pelc. I'm a CEO and founder of Shared Play. I'm also a host for iGaming Next podcast. And today I'm very happy to bring you another super interesting guest, Thomas Rosander. Hi, Thomas. Thanks for agreeing to be the guest today.
Hi, Karolina. Great to speak to you again.
I thought it was great timing to be able to secure some of Thomas's time. Esport betting, and all the trends around are getting really hot. We talk about it quite often in our Thursday Clubhouse sessions. There's a lot of interest. And Thomas has just been appointed a new position. But before I get to that, let me give a very brief introduction on what Thomas has been doing before. So Thomas is an experienced iGaming executive whose former positions include Chief Executive Officer of Dunder Casino, Chief Product Officer of Mr. Green Online, and Section Head Business Intelligence at bwin. Thomas was also an Engagement Director and Business Intelligence Director at game developer Electronic Arts. Super interesting background. Me and Thomas know each other from the time that I used to live in Malta. So thanks again for agreeing. Tell us a little bit about the new appointment. Congratulations, CEO of Luckbox. I think it's a great appointment considering your background. But tell us a little bit more about the company and why did you choose it for your next challenge?
Yeah, so Luckbox is operated by a group called Real Luck Group, and that's where I'm now CEO. I actually joined as Chief Customer Officer first, and that was a choice completely out of passion. You know that I've always had like one leg in iGaming and one in the video gaming side, and ever since I left EA, I've been dreaming about combining these two, and just doing another casino felt a little bit boring compared to this, because Luckbox is esports betting, and it's placed right smack in the middle between these two favorite industries of mine, I would say.
I think it's a really great challenge, and I'll be following it closely. You've recently received a nomination from EGR for a Rising Star, and I was reading, the reasons for nomination was that, your headline says "Esports done right." Can you elaborate on what does it actually mean? What does it mean to do esports right?
Yeah, from the beginning. So Luckbox was founded by two guys from PokerStars, and this was 2018. So esports was not common that companies were regulated and things. It was a little bit Wild West, and they decided let's bring that we learned from PokerStars, and let's do things correctly. So they wanted to have a license, and they want to do everything in a legit way. And that was, I think, the beginning of doing it right. That is, of course, still important for us, but now it has become more of doing it right for the players as well, like really giving the right experience to our specific demographic. And so it's basically a combo of those two things, and I think it's very powerful also. Like, do it right. What's the opposite of doing it right? It's do it wrong. You don't want to do that. So
yeah, I love the commitment to putting customer first. I had a podcast with Britt from Kindred very recently, and they even restructured the whole company to sort of accommodate to that customer experience and doing things right for the end user. So I think it's the way forward. While I have you on here, I mean, similarly to asking Richard when I did the Richard Carter podcast, what is a SPAC? I do appreciate that many people know this, but I wanted to use your time a little bit to educate us a little bit about esports. What's the current ecosystem? Who are the main suppliers versus operators? Draw a little bit of a picture for us, please.
Yeah, I mean, that can take a very long time, but yeah, sure.
Fair.
I'm assuming that most people who are going to watch this are coming from the iGaming side of things and are familiar with that. And I think that the biggest difference for esports betting is that it's all fueled by the video game industry. That's where it's coming from, and that's why it's so big, because most people, about 1/3 of the population on Earth basically play video games. So that's like 2.7 billion people, and for the video game industry, this is competitive gaming is a huge opportunity, not only to get more attention to your games, but also to prolong the lifetime of them. And so for them, it's absolutely massive, and that's one side of things. And then of course we have the iGaming side, and the providers there are pretty much the same ones. If you're looking for a platform or so on. What's different, besides having the whole video game industry influencing it, is how data and streams are provided, and that's I would say it's a little bit that's the tricky part of it, because as you know, and probably most people know, Twitch is very heavily involved in this, and the source for many people to watch it, and streams can actually be faster than what Twitch can produce. And then you have to slow down the streams. It's just one example of how complexity in it. And it's also a challenge for many now to, everybody wants to have as big offers as possible, and as many markets and as many odds as possible. And the providers of this, it originally comes from the games, of course, and then there are aggregators who put this together and resell it, or sometimes they put odds on it themselves. And that's one of the big challenges that most of the companies in the space are struggling with now, trying to have as broad offer as possible. And for us, that's one of our key edges for Luckbox, because the platform that was built early had that idea that let's be able to integrate many flows in parallel of data and odds. So
what I love most about this product vertical is that it shakes things up. It's not just live casino that every sort of casino operator adds, or a casino that every sportsbook operator eventually adds, or a sportsbook that every casino operator eventually adds. It's sort of this vertical where you see companies pop up from a completely different background with completely different view on things, right? So I think that's super interesting. And I know you said that most of the people who watch the podcast know about esport, but I think a lot know just the surface level, and they would like to dig deeper. So do you have any stories or anecdotes or interesting facts of how did it actually start? When did it start? What was the first sort of esport experience that we've seen?
Yeah, the history books, it's hard, but it basically, esports became official in Korea, I think like year 2000 or something like that. And of course, in the beginning, it was not real money. It was skin betting. So basically, people were betting about things that they had in the game, and that was kind of the currency. So that's how it started. So Asia was first, especially Korea, and it came much later in the Western world. But as I said, now with the video game industry seeing the possibilities in competitive gaming, it's just a massive tidal wave that nobody can ignore. And I think that for as you said, there's two kind of operators in this business, and it's as you said, the up and coming one who wants to be innovative and have a lot of ideas and want to do things differently, which I think we fit into. And then you have the traditional big sports book who they lost their traditional sports during the pandemic, and now we have to add something, and they add this esports. And but their approach is more like it's a complement, and I think they are they're a little bit spoiled, in terms of they just added it because they had to, and of course they earn enough money on what they're doing for now, at least. So
I know I believe in this solution specialization. I always advocate for that, and I think it's similar case to live casino. Adding live casino vertical to your offering is not enough. You really do need to dedicate resources and have the right expertise and understand the nitty-gritty details, and only those companies that really invested in that have succeeded. So for others it can be useless vertical. Now we talked a little bit about COVID-19 impact and acceleration of esport betting because of the absence of other sports, and in general people got more interested in video games as well because it was something that was not impacted, the type of entertainment that was still allowed to a certain extent. I saw in your numbers that you've experienced tremendous growth, that it was something like 500%, outside of the obvious sort of pandemic related triggers. What has driven your growth, such aggressive growth?
Yeah, I would say that it was a good team, a good product, etc. for the time. But the truth is there was a lot of timing and luck into that, for sure. And it's easy to show those numbers when you're starting from something very low. And but I think it's absolutely amazing what Real Luck Group and Luckbox managed to do before I joined, because they went through the regular struggles, of launching a company and trying to find financing and so on, which you know a lot about. And it in just under 3 years, they actually managed to go public and raise a lot of money. And that would not have been possible if the hype hadn't been boosted by this. It's tragedy, the whole pandemic, but for a certain group of companies, as you say, it was a huge leap forward. Absolutely.
So you mentioned the IPO, and yes, unbelievable story with being able to go IPO within 2 years. But it was also an interesting choice of where you've gone public, because it was in Canada. Can you give us a little bit of a rationale behind it? Because I don't think it's that commonly seen within our industry.
Yeah. It's more common than you think, I think.
Okay.
It's Canada is great country, and I think like Vancouver can be compared to Stockholm in terms of tech startups and so on. It's a great climate for that kind of innovation and all that. A lot of if you look around, you're going to see a lot of cool examples that is popping up in Canada. It's also a very sports interested country, and then of course they also see this massive wave of people turning to esports, and that is going to be absolutely enormous, or already is. So they're very interested in this, but essentially that's where the initial investors came from, and I think that was mostly what steered it.
Okay. And being close to the market, if I could just sort of pick your brains on the regulatory landscape in Canada, especially in the context of what you guys doing, how does it look at the moment?
Well, what just happened is that the bill just passed the second hearing in the Senate, and it's really, really close now. They, of course, been at this for almost a decade, as many other countries, but it really looks like it's going to happen now, and probably very influenced by what's going on in the States. So they see the possibilities there, and I guess it gave the politicians a little bit of a boost, saying that this is a good thing to do, both for players and for the country, basically.
So do you think that Canada, because there's a lot of hype about the US and how exciting that opportunity is, the big race, do you think Canada has an opportunity to become equally as exciting?
In one sense, yes. I know that a lot of people who will watch this probably are doing really nice revenues in Canada already. And they know that it's a fantastic market. I think you can't really compare with the United States, because it's a different kind of beast. I think it's easier in Canada because it's one country, and in the US you have to go state by state. but in terms of long-term potential, US is much bigger, I think, and it's of course very interesting for us as well.
Sure. So now taking it back a little bit to sort of your product and everything and tying it in with general landscape, what do you think are the main trends within esports betting, and what are you doing specifically to address those trends and making sure you really are, leading the way with what you're doing?
Yeah, I think that the main trend is to broaden your offer right now, because as I mentioned, it's a little bit complicated to have all the games available. So everybody's competing to have most, even though sometimes some games you're lacking content basically, and it is there, but it's nobody's processing, because it's a little bit about the hen or the egg, like what's come first. And I think it's mostly in our interest, and with our, I mean the smaller companies who are trying to renew the space, the sports betting, so to speak, to work on this and try to innovate and really try to create more odds, both pre-match and live. And yeah, I think there's a lot of innovation coming there, and that's where we really have a lot of ideas that's going to change things up, I think. And I think
yeah, go ahead.
No, I think that the innovation that is going to come in terms of how you do live betting is definitely going to come from esports. As I said, because in traditional sports, people are earning money anyway, and it's comfortable. It's just that you have so much more possibilities when you look at esports, because it's a digital product from the beginning. You have all the data, and you can do things so much faster and so much more in detail. And there's nobody really utilizing that.
Yeah. Fair enough. And in terms of engagement, you've got amazing experience with engagement, and we also always talk about all kind of gamifications and engagement strategies. I'm equally interested in this. You do have a phrase on your website saying you guys are uniquely engaging. Is that more to do with the nature of the business you're in, that naturally esports and video games are, they have built-in engagement, or is there something specific that you're doing in terms of innovation? I don't know, data science, or I've read a couple of different things on there that you're really taking into the next level for the engagement context.
Yes, I mean, this is as I said, this is what I've been dreaming about for a long time, and it's related to what I just said. So the esports players are mainly they play video games, right? Or they watch video games, and there's more people watching video games than actually playing them.
Yep.
So and that's showing that it's how big it's going to be. And with that said, you have to understand that, or what most people don't understand is that you cannot approach this demographic with the same view as Sportsbook has been looking for since the beginning, at least online. It's basically an Excel sheet with matches and odds listed on it. And that's not somebody who lives video games and watches that all the time. It's just not going to cut it. You have to adopt the product to that demographic, absolutely. And that's what we mean by being engaging and really trying to apply that breadth of video gaming into everything we do. And we are not there yet. We're working a lot on it, and I haven't been in the company that long, so sure. We started building on it directly, but unfortunately, it's going to take a little bit of time. But there's definitely going to come some ideas that I've been thinking about since, I don't know, 2014 or something.
Well, on your ideas, I wanted to see what would you say if I was going to ask between the difference of engagement between free to play and real money play, because you also have good experience with that. And there's a lot of sort of commotions in the US between the social casinos saying, this is completely different demographic, different engagement, and so on. But I'm interested in your view on that.
Yeah. Free to play is it's a business model, and online gambling is another thing. I think that's a long discussion, but I think there's definitely a crossover between the two. I think that we can already see it. Like there's loot boxes in every free to play game, basically, or some kind of version of it, and at the same time, like something to think about is that, like, if you look at Texas Hold'em poker, if you remove the blinds, it's a free-to-play game, right?
Yeah, true. True.
So no, but I think that I think the gap has become much closer between the two. And I remember when I started at Mr. Green as Chief Product Officer, I created a product board where I invited some, not going to mention any names, but some really cool individuals from very cool companies on both sides, iGaming and video gaming. And we had exactly this discussion. And I was asking, like, why aren't to the video game or free-to-play companies or mobile, etc. And I was asking, like, why don't you go into betting? The answer was then that they didn't dare to, because they were, in many cases, public companies, and they were scared that it was gonna be taken wrongly by the huge player bases they had. The step was just too big then. But I think now that has actually changed. So now the gap is so much smaller, and it's just about to happen. And we can see lots of examples of that there in many ways, I think.
Right. So you covered a little bit about Mr. Green, and that takes me to another question where I wanted to sort of move the focus a little bit to your journey, in the industry and outside of it. You have worked for companies at very exciting stages. So I wanted to ask you for sort of your main highlights from each. And I have specifically one, question about EA, because I remember a quote, you made way in the past where you said I was probably one of the most hated people at the time when I was working there. And I just always go back to the story, and I think it would be great to give background to the situation. Where did it come from,
Not hated people, hated companies. EA,
okay.
Yes. EA was, for EA was the most hated company for like 3 years in a row, I think. And this was at the time when, the year I joined was the same year as Event Horizon, the oil platform, British Petroleum, basically flooded the Mexican Gulf with oil and, killed off species, and was like enormous environmental disaster. And despite that, EA, a company that provides entertainment, was still the most hated company in the US. It was in the US. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know how you should interpret that, but I think it tells a lot about how passionate people are about the games they're playing, and which is something to really consider. So to all the operators who are watching this, like, don't neglect your customer support and how you actually communicate with the players. I think that it also says something about mankind, right? It's and not in a very positive way. It is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. And what about Dunder? You've worked in there and were responsible for a lot of exciting developments within Dunder. What were your main highlights from that part of your career?
Dunder was an amazing growth story, absolutely crazy, and Olof and Jihad who founded it are absolutely amazing people, and having great success after that as well. And when I joined, we decided to start benchmarking against Leo Vegas, who was had a great growth history as well.
Yeah.
And we were benchmarking month to month to how they had done it, and we were beating them so hard on every point.
Okay.
And so it's absolutely amazing to be part of that. And the idea was to sell the company already from the beginning, and I joined to pretty much prepare it for that. And we got to that point, and the sell did not happen in the way we had thought, but it turned out pretty well anyway, and we came back to the initial investor. So it's integrated there now, and I'm just really happy to have been part of that.
Great. I also wanted to ask you, we talk about a lot about the video games and the trends, and you clearly are choosing sort of the future for where we are at now. What do you think in general the future still holds for our industry? Is there more things we can learn from video games just than betting on esports? Is things like Sony announcing the patent on real money betting on esports? Should we start to get scared of the bigger players coming to take a piece of our pie, or of any other developments that you can foresee?
I don't think we should be scared. I would love if Sony actually did something with this. I think that it's a great sign that they did that, and I think that's how it should be interpreted. They, just as everybody else, realizes that the future audience is different from the paying audience right now, if I express it like that. It's very clear that the new demographic, the one that we are focusing on, which is basically Gen Z and millennials, so 18 to 35, they're not used to watching the Sunday football game with a paper clip in their pocket. They're used to something completely different, and all the big companies see this, and I think everybody sees it. It's just the difference in how you act on it, and I think what Sony is doing and some others are they're just a signal that they're carefully trying to or starting to prepare themselves for that, because they see what is coming. And I'm absolutely sure, in relation also to what I said before, that the innovation that is going to come to the iGaming industry, it's going to come now from us. It's going to come from the esports betting, because there's so many possibilities and it's so untouched, and we're kind of forced to do something.
Yeah.
And while the traditional sports, they're very comfortable. They're earning nice money on just providing traditional sports and so on.
Yeah.
And I think the innovation that we are planning and that we are building on now in terms of betting, those things we realize that we can apply that to traditional sports as well.
Yeah.
And that's
when it gets exciting.
That's going to be a game changer.
Absolutely. I'm following all the sort of esport betting business closely, because, I'm also trying to innovate with my product at Shared Play, and very much in line with what you said, we're trying to learn from sort of the needs of the players that they've developed in video games, and trying to meet somewhat the expectations that they created. And whereas I don't have expertise in esports and I don't have expertise in sports betting, I never had any ambition to have expertise in sports betting, whereas I do have huge ambitions to have expertise in esports, because I think it's just such an exciting and innovative space that it's worth a close following, So now let's take it a little bit to your leadership style. I always talk to you as about the product person, because when I Skype you or whatever, we fixate over product innovation, discuss gamification and those things. But you've done the CEO role for more than twice now, so I would say that sort of your career is split equally between the two different roles. So I'm interested to know what kind of leader you are with your teams, and also the main sort of learnings on the journey from CPO to CEO. What you found different, what you found challenging?
Yeah, so probably somebody else should answer this, but somebody in my team, I guess. But I think that somebody said once that I had a crystal ball, and I don't. I'm sorry. I wish I had one so I could tell what's happening. But I think you're absolutely right. I'm a product person, and I think what I do good is that I package things really well. And your every workday is made up of, you get a lot of tells of what's going to happen in the future. Like we're speaking about one big one right now. Yeah. And what I do is that I kind of package these tells into a vision. And not all the time, but sometimes this vision becomes so strong that I really, really, really believe in it. And when I get that excited about something, I think it gets infectious, and people also get excited about it, and that's when it happens. And it's every role is about people, and you have to get them with you, and that's when things are going to happen. It doesn't matter what kind of management level you have, and I think that's the key, I think. And in regards to being the CEO, I've never done what I'm doing now. Being the CEO for a public company, being the front figure of it, it's something completely different. And I think I've been playing half the game up until this point, so to speak. And but when I think about it, I think the only difference is there's still people. It's just that I got the whole have the whole company with employees and colleagues that you have to excite and make motivated about what you're doing and so on. Now I have a bunch of investors that I have to do the same with, and I find it very, very interesting, and I see a lot of innovation that can happen on the IR view of things as well. So
I think the product people have the unique opportunity to sort of motivate and get the team on board, especially in product-driven companies, not with the HR initiatives, team buildings, and sort of culture-oriented initiatives, but just pure passion for product that they have. If they can share it, and as you said, be infectious, then half of the job is done. And I think with investors, it also scores, because I remember a time where LeoVegas was going IPO and we're doing roadshow with investors, and I was presenting about product, and I was totally inexperienced, what I should present. But one of the bankers did come to me after and said, listen, this was really interesting, because it was just your passion for this was coming through so much and was so authentic that it made us believe. So I think this is where having product background in a leadership role like CEO is helpful, because it lets you be convincing.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think I'm very lucky here also, because Luckbox has a fantastic team, and they are all everybody's coming from mixed role positions as I am, like one leg in both sides. And everybody's super passionate about what they're doing, and that in combination with the fact that they have gone through some hard years, with startup, and also through the race and everything, and now they find themselves in a position where we have very clear vision, like we're going to be the #1 esports betting company, and we have full pockets. We have everything in place. We still need to adopt our product and our platform a little bit to be able to do all the stuff that we want to do. But besides that, it's a dream for me too. Coming into a place that's perfectly positioned for you to execute on your passion. It's very, very rare. So I'm so much looking forward to the next 2 years, I would say.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, Thomas. Exactly. My thoughts, exciting appointment. Thank you very much for coming to chat to me today. Super interesting. And I hope to see you and many other people soon at some iGaming events because it's been a while. But yeah, thanks again for your time today.
Yes. Thank you so much, Karolina.
Thanks.